Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Shaw, Miss
Howdy.
Willbrand, coming at you again, this time with probably the best lesson yet. Wouldn't you agree, Miss Willbrand?
Oh yeah, this one's a fun one.
I mean, no, really, no, very little depression, which is really rare for U.S. history,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Okay, so guys, welcome to the 1990s, or as Miss Willbrand and I call it, our formative years. Let's see, I was like 4 to 14 in for 1990 to 2000.
Yeah, I turned one in 1990, so.
Unbelievable. Okay. All right. Well, here we go, guys. 1990s. We're focusing on culture and technology. Let's get right into it. Miss Wilbrand, take it away.
All right, let's go. First slide. We're going to talk first about the communication revolution. This is a big deal, boys and girls. Computers are first developed in the 1940s, and they take up an entire room at the time. And they still can't do much more than a basic calculator at first. You like your for function, plus, minus, multiply, divide. They develop quickly, obviously, as technology often does. Once you get that ball going, it kind of just snowballs down the mountain. But they were really, really large. And if you remember, those of you who have seen Hidden Figures, the IBM took up a whole room in Hidden Figures. And remember, it was too big. They couldn't get it through the doorway. They had to like knock down the doorway to get it in. It's good stuff. And then in the 1960s, the Department of Defense began to network its computers to protect its ability to launch nuclear missiles. Thank you, Cold War, for that concern. And then as we go through the 80s, we see this continuing to evolve, and we see the National Science Foundation create its own network. The network is the NSF-NET, and it allows anyone to use it. More on this on the next slide, by the way, because it evolves even further into what you know and love today. This does lead to a digital revolution. Who doesn't love a revolution? All right, Mr. Shaw?
I know I do. And I would have to agree that this is such a monumental thing. Like for the first time, like we see information at people's fingertips. Like you guys are used to it. Like you're used to just being able to Google whatever from the computer you have in your pocket. But beforehand we had these things called encyclopedias, and we had to go to the library to find it and look it up. It was awful. So anyway, this is laying the foundation for what you guys use today in the internets.
Did you do reports from the encyclopedia in elementary, Mr. Shaw?
I want to say that I did.
I remember
I
doing them
don't.
on. I had to cite the encyclopedia when I did one. I did a report on walking sticks, the bug,
Wow,
in third grade, and filmed a very dramatic video on walking sticks.
that's so
With my
nice.
with my dad. Yeah, I
I
had to cite the encyclopedia.
I remember my like fifth grade project was something about magnets, and I was like trying to, I don't know, it was something stupid about magnets, and I remembered that one of my sources was from the encyclopedia, so I didn't win that year.
Sorry.
That's why I'm a history teacher and not a science teacher.
Oh, and while we're on this tangent, I just want to remind you all that we will be doing this lesson in 20 minutes or less today. Here we
All
go.
right, all right, here we go. 4 minutes in, one slide down. Okay, so this is continuing your communication revolution, and as Mr. Wilbrand alluded to, this is going to be the foundation for the internet. So industries begin to use computers to run their businesses because they are far more efficient than pen and paper. A computer can store information and you can look it up really, really fast. Whereas, like filing systems and all that stuff is just really inefficient. It's going to completely revolutionize how people operate their business. Unfortunately, though, it is going to lead to some people losing their jobs. Now, one person with a computer can really do the work of an entire group of, say, secretaries, for example. Now you only need one secretary with a computer. So there was going to be a little bit of job loss associated with that. Also in the 1990s, Americans started to buy personal computers for their homes. And they were just hunks of junk. Like, but I mean, so cool still. I remember this. I guess it's just gonna be us, like in just nostalgia time. I remember our just gigantic Windows computer that we had, like took up just a whole like side of a room pretty much. Not really not that dramatic, but I remember I played.
Desk.
Oh no, I'm thinking of a Mac, like one of the first Macintosh laptops, and I played Battle Chess on it. It was so cool. It's like regular chess, except the pieces when they met, they like fought. So cool. Anyway, it's that's neither here nor there. So again, the NSFNet grows into the internet, which was invented by Al Gore. And the internet is an international network linking computers and allowing almost instant transmittal of text, images, and sound. Again, it's much faster than it was back then. We had what was called dial-up internet, and it's like literally like it was plugged into your phone line, and you had to like that's why I call it dial-up because you had to like
Your
dial a
home
line.
phone line. Cell phones
Yeah,
weren't really a thing for everybody. We
sure.
had home phones.
So home phone lines, and then you had to like dial it in. So it took like a minute, like 30 seconds to a minute, just to get access to the internet. And you had this really annoying like it was so stupid. Anyway, now thanks to high-speed internet, we don't have to do that anymore. But again, the internet obviously people can see the immediate application of it, right? And so by 2014, again beginning in the 90s, but by 2014, 43.6% of the world's population was using the internet, which might seem kind of small to you, but you have to remember that a lot of the like, there's much of the world population resides in China and India, and there's still a lot of places in China and India that don't necessarily have, again, a lot of like rural areas that don't have access to, even things like running water in some cases. So again, 43.6% is a really huge chunk of the world population that's going to be using the internet. And now we're going to see kind of that globalism that I mentioned in the last video, people relying on each other a lot more, and just kind of the efficiency in general of the world economy is going to be through the roof now.
And we talked briefly about how it does away with some jobs, but it also opens up some new jobs in the form of technology and information sharing, and having to have people that were really good at programming and being able to handle computers, both big and small. Not to mention factories that built these machines for the home, which evolved very quickly. So there's a dip in jobs that computers and technology takes away from people, but it opens up a new market for jobs as well. But you have to be trained in those jobs.
That's a good point. Thank you for adding that. I like that. That's much better than my depressing unemployment shtick. Okay, I apologize. I'm so sorry. Moving on.
All right, legislating technology. So this all sounds fine and dandy, except it was the wild, wild west. During the 1980s, the government was slow to recognize the implications of new communications technology. As technology grew, it grew exponentially fast. And it got way ahead of any kind of government regulation or anything like that. If you think way, way back to the 1800s, when we started talking about railroads, and these railroads started spreading across the country, and they were price gouging farmers and just doing whatever they wanted, and there was no government regulation of these large entities. Take that idea and put it with the internet. And that's what we start seeing in the 80s. As the internet grows, as technology grows, the government isn't keeping up with legislation to police it. However, in the 90s, legislation does begin to be passed to regulate and protect consumers. And that carries through to the 2000s, and even today we see like cyberbullying laws and things like that as well, that we didn't see prior to 2005. We also see Telecommunications Act of 1996 come out in the 90s. It increases competition. It also leads to major media conglomerates and mergers, like ABC and Disney merged during the 90s, late 90s. There are just a bunch of different mergers that take place.
Don't worry, that never happens again. It's okay. Disney owns everything now.
Disney owns everything now, including Marvel.
I don't think I have anything to add there. I think that you did a great job. Again, you don't really think about you don't really think about how important it is for the government to get involved in something like that. But you need to remember that the government works slowly, and so whenever they finally do realize that something's important and they need to make sure that they have passed laws on it, there's a lot of people that disagree on that law, and so it takes a ton of time, uh, to get an actual law passed, and meet all the while consumers are really not protected, unfortunately.
And a lot of that comes from the fact that when something is created, you don't know the problems it's going to make and create and have for people until it starts making those problems, right? It's like a new seating chart in a classroom. I can make a new seating chart and think it looks great on paper, and then y'all sit down and I find out you're friends with each other, right? And then we have to redo the whole thing. Hindsight's always 2020 though.
Is everything going okay, Miss Wilbrand?
I miss making seating charts.
I figured. All right, we got to move on. Okay, so getting into the culture of the 1990s, what you're going to see, we discussed really, really briefly in the 1920s and 1950s something called consumerism. And so this was the idea that people were buying things that they really didn't necessarily need, but they were buying them because it was like comforts. So, you could have, like, yeah, you could wash all your dishes, but why would you do that if you had a dishwasher? Even though the dishwasher doesn't really get it all, doesn't get all the dirt.
You have to pre-wash.
That's ridiculous. Um, the other what we see in the 90s is like this consumerism transforms into materialism, and unfortunately, this is, and again, I'm going to try to be positive here, but materialism in general, it starts to kind of determine people start using their stuff to determine their worth, and they start kind of judging each other based on how much they have. And that's really kind of one negative thing that does come up from it. But the idea of, like, from the 50s, they call it keeping up with the Joneses. That really takes off in the 90s, and people, hey, if my neighbor bought a boat, I want a boat. Anyway, I digress. So economically, in the 1990s, the United States was one of the best places that it had been in 2 decades, leaving Americans with a lot more money to spread. The 80s, which we skipped, had a lot of really positive, I guess, just occurrences for minorities, and African Americans especially were probably about as equal as we've ever seen them up until that time. And so now it was just really a great place to be. Consumers began to spend big money. They wanted bigger stuff. They wanted expensive things. They had called it luxury fever. So you're talking luxury cars, the boats, as I mentioned, just all kinds of stuff that really is unnecessary. But again, when you're talking about that determining how people see you, uh, it becomes it becomes a little bit more, I don't know, I guess, understandable why people would do that. Coffee and cigars, for example, become affordable luxury items that Americans took a lot of interest in. Welcome to Starbucks. I need an iced tall 5 pump decaf vanilla latte, please. That's my wife's order. Sorry, I have to memorize it because she makes me say it all the time because she thinks it's hilarious that the Starbucks person thinks it's me, that it's my order. So she makes me say it. She's kind of mean, to be honest with you. Cigars are seen as an important part of not important part, but a part of upscale lifestyle. So young men and women participated in the fad to appear more luxurious. Um, and there's a song from, I think it's from the 90s, by Will Smith. Uh, he talked about cigars. He's like, I just bite it. It's for the look. I don't light it. Sorry, it's Getting Jiggy with It by Will Smith, or if you guys want to look that up. But again, but you see again, these kinds of things are becoming more commonplace. Did you know, Ms. Wilbrand, that at the birth of a child, it is traditional for the husband to smoke cigars with either like the other, like his dad and his father-in-law, or with his group of friends. Did you know that?
I did know that, and we announced to my family on Thanksgiving that we were expecting, and Aaron had me in preparation for this, even though I cooked the entire Thanksgiving meal myself and do all the shopping for it. So on top
Uh-oh.
of that, had me go and get cigars for after we announced our pregnancy too,
Wow.
which he has asthma, so I don't know. I guess he just Will Smithed this cigar. I don't know. I didn't ask.
I did not partake in the cigars. I thought it was disgusting. So
Yeah,
no luxury for Mr. Shaw.
I do not partake in cigars either. So, I do want to recap this slide and just kind of where we've been and where we're going. So 1950s, we see that rise of consumerism, luxury items, Cadillac becomes available, Disneyland is built in Anaheim. We see all this stuff. And then we see that shift from the 50s into the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where we're fighting the power, we're finding our voice. Women are getting back out into the workforce. We see huge movements for minorities and people of color. And then as technology moves into the 90s, as we economically cycle back to the top, we see that rise in luxury items again, but it becomes luxury items that define who we are, right? Like when I go to the store, there are certain brands that I prefer over other brands, right? My Lululemon people talking to you.
I was just thinking, even like travel too. Like you mentioned Disney, like the ability to go on vacations. Like I didn't really go on a lot of vacations with as a kid with my family. I think maybe one big one is all I really remember, and I always thought that was weird. Like because like my friends would always talk about like going on vacations, and I was just like, you don't do that.
No,
What
that's
does that
good of
mean?
you.
That's true. That's true. There's a lot of Shaws. It's
There are
really too much.
5 Mr. Shaws running around, boys and girls.
For those of you that don't know, I'm the oldest of 5 boys, and for my mom and dad's last try for a girl, they got 2 boys. So we have a whole basketball team now. It's really unfortunate that we're quite terrible at basketball. All right, we got to move on.
Okay, let's go. Because we're gonna do it under 20 minutes. We got this.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Okay, culture. I'm gonna push right here. Let's do it.
All right, so grunge and hip hop. We see clothing trends following musical trends. So we see grunge, we see hip hop, we see like saggy pants and flannel, and I personally,
Basically, everybody looked like they were homeless.
everyone looked homeless, and it was cool to look like this. High top Converse, those are still pretty cool though. Ripped jeans, okay, but not like cute ripped jeans, like really baggy, like ladies like the boyfriend fit, but ripped and not cute and like too long for you, so they're all frayed and ripped at the bottom. Just I don't understand it. I dress like this, but I don't understand it. We do see hip hop culture was popularized by artists like Janet Jackson and Ice Cube and Tupac. And we see really huge musical movements come out of the 90s as well. It I would argue that the 90s have the best music.
I would definitely disagree with you. It's got to be the 80s, but I see your point. You make a good point.
So big movements come out of this, especially for rap and in the Black community. Music really takes on its own vibe, and it opens a lot of doors for people, which is really cool.
I would suggest to for the other side of that to check out Saved by the Bell, the original show. Saved by the Bell does a really great job of showing you like the entire culture of the 1990s, and just like you see like the high the guys wearing the high waisted jeans, like the really baggy button down shirts, like all kinds of stuff, like girls in like band t-shirts and like in baggy jeans, stuff like that. Yeah, oh yeah, all over the place.
I think it's on Hulu.
I think so too.
So
You know they're doing a revival. They're bringing it back.
I heard that, and I'm excited.
Although AC Slater is like a lame gym coach now, so I don't know about
I
that.
know. It's gonna be
All right, we got to go. I have 30 seconds. Okay, changes in family life. Here we go. So we told you guys know about the nuclear family. We're not going to make it. You know about the nuclear family, and so we have for the first time though that was all over the media in like the 50s and 60s, but in the 90s the more non-traditional families, the blended families, the step families, they actually took a really large role in the American media This was a show called Step by Step, which was basically a ripoff of the Brady Bunch, which you guys are familiar with. I'm sure you've at least heard of it.
I hope
But
so.
anyway, it's like the mom and dad had three kids each from uh, separate marriages, and then they got married and brought them in together. It's a really good show. Step by step, day by day. Anyway, um, I think that you talk about how important it is to lead this discussion about the step family and what that looks like because since the 50s we have seen the divorce rate skyrocket. So that means again the divorce rate's actually gone down recently, but that's because less people are getting married or they're waiting a lot longer to get married. So um, at its highest, the divorce rate was 66%, which meant that there was over half of the American population theoretically that was in some sort of step family or a blended family. The nuclear family was not the norm anymore as it was back in the 50s. Um, so again, kind of normalizing that was really important for American life because that's, I mean, again, most of you are probably in blended families right now, and so then that is the new normal, and it has been since the 1990s.
I laugh because I wonder if we'll see a little spike in divorce rates after being at home with your spouse for so long. Everything's fine here. Are divorce lawyers essential?
I believe so. I believe they are, just because of the strain of coronavirus on a marriage. Everything's going fine, guys. I wouldn't even worry about us. Oh my gosh, we should have made signs that say like to hold up right here that just say send help. That would have been hysterical. Okay, hey guys, this has been lovely.
We did
We're
it.
all done.
We didn't do
We
it,
didn't do it. We did not do it. Not even close, actually. Um,
but it was
guys, this was. I hope you enjoyed it. We had a ton of fun, as you can tell, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy.
fun. Bye, guys.